Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We've been talking recently about truth, goodness, and beauty. Today we're going to talk about the truth. So what is the truth? Who has the truth? Who owns the truth? It's a concept that is fundamental to being alive and being a human being. And I want to come at it from the point of view of religion and spirituality and what does it all have to do with the truth. So I want to start with a quote from a Muslim philosopher named Al-Kindi. And he said, "No one is diminished by the truth. Rather, does the truth ennoble all." No one is diminished by the truth. Rather, does the truth ennoble all, make noble all. So I want to talk about what exactly does that mean? Because, sometimes we have this language in our culture that says the truth hurts. The truth will come out as if it's coming out to get you. And I want to emphasize from a spiritual point of view that the truth is not a dangerous thing. The truth liberates. The truth frees us. And we have things, for example, in the Bible that we have statements like, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And so we have to understand that there is this idea of the truth that is a liberating force for our spiritual being. And in the sense of not that our spiritual being is trapped or anything like that, but that our minds don't know everything. And they have to go on a journey of knowledge to learn more and more. And along that journey, there are different levels of the truth. And, we have some idea of the truth. For example, the truth is a correspondence between statements and facts, right? So if I say, this room has light in it, that is a truth for me. You can walk into the room and see, the bulbs are on. So it is true that there is light in this room. And so that's kind of this one level of truth where, it's a physical phenomenon. Other people can verify it. And this is the domain of science. And there's other things like psychological truth. Whereas I can say, I feel sad today. And another person can walk into the room and say, I don't feel sad at all. I feel great. So, but my sadness is a psychological truth for me. It's happening. It's what I'm experiencing right now. The fact that somebody else is experiencing not sadness, but actually some pleasantness, doesn't undermine or deny or make my sadness something that's fake, that I'm just making up. So that's psychological truth. And then there's kind of shared psychological truth where, if two people are listening to a song or watching, something beautiful, and they both feel carried away, lifted up, and they say, that's a great song. I love that song. Or, that's a great view of the mountains. I love this view. I love being up here in the mountains. And so that's kind of a shared, subjective, but internal psychological truth, It's not as external and objective as what's the temperature up here on the mountain. My thermometer says 65 degrees, your thermometer says 65 degrees. So that's That's kind of shared objective truth, and then there's shared psychological truth. And so when we have, scripture come down through the prophets, and the scripture says, I am the truth, and, believe in this, and follow this, and do this, and do that. And so we have to kind of find out, well, what parts of that are true that we can actually verify, and what parts of it we have to kind of use not necessarily on faith, but it could have metaphorical value, mythological value, and things like that. For example, people often say when Moses was taking the Jewish people, his tribe out of Egypt, and the Pharaoh was coming after him on horseback, and all the soldiers were coming after them to possibly kill them, possibly drag them back into Egypt and back into slavery. So it was a very kind of terrifying moment. And Moses, puts the staff in the water of the river, and the staff and the water parts, right? The river parts, and it's a very interesting phenomenon. It is not usually something that happens, but when God performs that act of separating that river, and that miracle happens through the vehicle of Moses and his needs as a prophet to get those people into safety. People say, well, did that really happen? Did the waters actually, go sideways, and there was like wet, mushy land, but there was no water there, so they could at least, walk and cross the river and get safely to the other side? Did that actually happen? We don't know. We don't know. We don't know if it was a literal truth, or if it's or a scientific truth. What we do know is that the story has symbolic truth. It has metaphorical truth. It has internal psychological truth. It has shared psychological truth, if not external objective truth and external shared objective truth. So truth is a very interesting thing. It works on many levels, in many facets, and it's a part of who we are. It's a part of who we are, because we are always grappling with the truth. We are always seeking the truth. We are always driven by the truth. It is something that's pulling us, and it is something that's pushing us. It's inspiring us. It's whenever we are confused or misguided or deceived about something, and we come into the truth about that situation, we feel, we can breathe again. We are a little lighter. We can, we're a little freer. Even if it's initially disappointing to find out the truth, it's always something that that frees us. Now, there are instances where people say, "I'd rather not know the truth. Just don't tell me. I don't want to know. Don't tell me." You've heard that, right? Don't tell me. I don't want to know. And that is a resistance to the truth. And there is a psychological resistance to the truth, with a capital T, the truth as God, Al-Haq. One of the names of God, one of the names of Allah in the Quran is Al-Haq, the truth. And there is a kind of resistance to that, because the truth asks you to become something that you are not used to becoming, to behave in ways that you may not be used to behaving, to do things you don't really want to do, to serve people and love people that you don't really want to serve and love. And so the truth sometimes is demanding, and it comes like sometimes an uninvited guest. But when it does come, there's an opportunity for us to either turn toward it, to open the door for it, to open that window for it and be like Ibrahim, and welcome that stranger. The truth comes as a stranger sometimes. You know, if we've been living in shadows, I'll give you an example. It just came to me. Plato. Plato has an allegory of the cave in some of his discourses. And what it's about is there are these people who have been living in a cave their whole life. They were born in the cave. They grew up in the cave. They, eat food in the cave, and they play games in the cave, and they get married in the cave, and they have kids in the cave, and they're all living in this very dark cave with just a little bits of flickers of light that, little campfires that help them see a little bit of the cave. And they see a lot of shadows on the wall. And someday, somebody comes into the cave and says, "Did you know you all have been living in a cave, and you're just living by a little bit of light, and you're seeing shadows on the wall? And did you know that there's something outside this cave? That there is light outside this cave? There's a huge sun out there. The whole thing is like glowing with so much light you can't even directly look at it." And so the people come out of the, a lot of people resist, right? What are you talking about? You're talking nonsense. There's no such thing as being outside this cave. There's no such thing as this, some kind of sun that has so much light you can't look at it. I'm not interested. So that's, they're resisting the truth because they're used to living in the cave for so long, and they like their little campfires, and they like painting on the walls, and it's a good life, and they don't really want to leave the cave. But then, some people get curious. Oh, okay, well, all right, I'm interested. What's outside? Let me go look outside. And then they walk outside, and they walk slowly outside, and they see this, the opening of the cave, and it's very bright, and they can't, directly look at it because their eyes have not adjusted to lots of light. And as they go outside, they have to squint very hard. What is it? I can't see anything. And it takes some time for them to actually adjust their sight to the light. And they can't believe it. There's a whole world out here. There's trees, there's clouds, there's wind, and there's rain, and there's different animals, and different valleys and mountains and all of this. And there's this giant glowing thing in the sky. It looks like a circle, and it's so bright and so warm. It's a completely different life than what they were living in the cave. And so the truth sometimes comes like that. The truth is a stranger, and we are estranged from the truth. And we have to find a way to not be afraid, to move toward the truth, to seek out the truth, to ask Allah, please help me understand the truth, become more aware of the truth, increase me in knowledge of the truth, so that we have more and more familiarity with the truth, and then affinity with the truth, relationship with the truth, and getting closer and closer and closer to the truth, so that the truth becomes a part of us, and that we become a part of the truth, it becomes a part of us. And then, there are people who have gone deep into these things, and there is a man in Muslim history named Mansur al-Hallaj, who one day said, "Ana al-Haq, I am the truth." So he became such good friends with the truth that he became a part of that truth, and he discovered his truth. He discovered that in his core, in the being that he is, in the spiritual being that he is the truth. Ana al-Haq, I am the truth. So he says something he realized. And it's interesting that he was controversial and scandalous, and he said some other things that got him into even hotter trouble. And he became a kind of symbol in spiritual circles for somebody who is just thirsty for the truth and hungry for the truth and always seeking the truth. And the end of the journey is not to find this alien thing called truth. It's to find that in your core, you've always been truth, seeking the truth. And so it's truth upon truth, like the Quran says, light upon light. It's truth upon truth. So it's always been there. And the interesting thing about Halaj is that we've got one guy who says Anal Haq, and it scandalizes the whole Muslim world. But in India, they've been saying Anal Haq for thousands of years. Soham Tat Tuam Asi. You are that. You are that truth. I am that truth. And so, we have even in Indian metaphysics this idea of Sat Chit Ananda. Sat means it's a beautiful word in Sanskrit. It means truth and being, which is fascinating to me. Chit means consciousness, awareness. Ananda means joy, bliss, rapture, happiness. And it's a very interesting phrase, Sat Chit Ananda. And what it really means is when you become aware of the truth of being, you have your joy, you have your bliss, you have your rapture. So Sat, truth, Chit, awareness, Ananda, being. Awareness of being produces bliss. Awareness of being produces bliss. Very interesting concept. And these are just, gateways and portals for us to enter and become friends of the truth. Because, like Al-Kindi said, no one is diminished by the truth. Rather, does the truth ennoble